Yesterday, I made a rather interesting find here in Saginaw, Michigan. It is an anchor stone dating back to Native American times here in the Saginaw Valley. It's impossible for me to ascertain what period this is from, but being as the preponderance of the artifacts I've been finding this year go back to the late Archaic, I would maybe believe this to be the same, although it could be even late woodland. But anchor stones were, of course, used to anchor your place in the river or the lake, and there hasn't been a whole great deal written about them. This particular one is a very grainy, very hard but very grainy type rock. I wouldn't exactly call it sandstone, but it has a sandstone feel to it. On the left edge is a notch or groove that comes from the edge part way into the actual side of the anchor, and directly across from that is another groove. This was broken out in ancient times. You'll also notice some green on here. That's where it's been exposed over the years. The other part having been under the ground. When I first saw this piece, I thought it was going to be a mortar, but it's not. It is definitely an anchor stone, and a very nice one too. It's very large. It's probably about 7.5 inches long by 6 inches across, and it's quite heavy. I would guesstimate it at being 15 to 20 pounds. But since not a great deal has been written about them, or that I can find, we do know that they were used in conjunction with a dugout canoe. And the dugout canoe is simply exactly what the name implies. It is a boat made from a hollowed out tree trunk. Construction of a dugout begins with the selection of a log or of suitable dimensions. Sufficient wood needed to be removed to make the vessel relatively light in weight and buoyant, yet still strong enough to support the crew and cargo. Specific types of wood were often preferred based on their strength, durability, and density. I believe I read somewhere that here in Michigan, cedar was sought out for the purpose of making dugouts. The shape of the boat is then fashioned to minimize drag with sharp ends at the bow and stern, and first the bark is removed from the exterior. Before the appearance of metal tools, dugouts were hollowed out using controlled fires. The burnt wood was then removed using an adze. Another method using tools is to chop out parallel notches across the interior span of the wood, then split out and remove the wood from between the notches. And once hollowed out, the interior was dressed out and smoothed out with a stone knife or adze. More primitive designs keep the tree's original dimensions with a round bottom. However, it is possible to carefully steam the sides of the hollow log until they are pliable, then bend them to create a more flat-bottomed boat. Shape with a flat-bottomed boat shape with a wider beam in the center. I have looked at a number of dugout canoes that were found here in Michigan. One on the south end of Cedar Lake in Oscoda Greenbush, and also looked at an amazing one that was made down south in Georgia. My friend Jerry Wagner, now deceased, had made a dugout canoe using only the methods described here, and stone adze and fire, and he'd burn into it, chop away the carbonized wood, a process that took many hours to complete. But as he would point out, once it was done, you had a vessel or a vehicle for transportation that might last 20 or more years if it was cared for properly. So it was a good investment in time to make the dugout. And of course, the anchor stone would be part of the assemblage of things that you would definitely take with you to keep your dugout steady in one place if that's what you wanted to do. Birch bark canoes were also very common in the late woodland, though not as common, I don't think, here as the dugouts were. Native Americans of northern New England region were most commonly associated with its use, but were probably produced wherever the birch tree grew to sufficient diameter. Early European written records indicate that birch bark canoes were built in all sizes, made small for a single person, or fashioned in an incredible size to carry an amazing 50 paddlers. These canoes ranged in length between 10 and 24 feet. So the birch bark canoe and the dugout canoe are the two vessels that such an anchor stone would be used on. I went into that about the type of vessels because like I said, there's not a whole lot written on the anchor stones themselves. They're abundant in some areas, not so much in others. This again being a particularly fine specimen. Let me know your comments and thoughts in the section below. I always enjoy hearing from each and every viewer, so please let me know what you think. Have a great